Hello again and welcome back. What we are talking about today is photography, or the art of taking pictures. Photography was invented around the late 1800s, and in a little over 100 years, it has become such an important part of our daily lives. We take selfies of ourselves. Click, 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 click. We take pictures of events that happen. Click, 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 click. We take pictures of ourselves on vacation. Click, 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 click. If you look through your phone, you probably have thousands upon thousands of pictures. But the most amazing thing about photography is that we as human beings have invented a way to take a memory and print it onto a piece of paper that we can take around with us. And if you really break that down, that's pretty amazing. So what we're going to be doing today is I'm going to give you a bit of a breakdown about how cameras actually work. And then after that, I'm going to be giving you a challenge and several challenges over the next few days to try to make you a bit of a better photographer.
Cameras became commercially available as soon as plastic roll film was invented. It was fairly inexpensive, and you could load it in yourself. So this is a light-sensitive material that goes in the back of the camera, and as soon as the camera exposes it to light, that is when you get your picture. The first kind of cameras that were available were called double-lens reflex cameras. They were called double-lens because they have two lenses. One of the lenses you look through, and the other one you take the picture in. The problem with this was that the image that you saw was a little bit off because of the positioning of the two lenses. These cameras would have a little tiny door that would open up right here that you could see down into the picture that is coming through the viewing lens. So as technology developed, they invented the single lens reflex camera. Now this camera no longer has two lenses, it just has one lens. So if we take off the lens, we're going to be able to see into the camera. And how this camera works is the light goes through the lens, hits this little mirror inside, and that mirror bounces up the light into our viewfinder here. So when we click the shutter button, that mirror drops for a fraction of a second, allowing light to get inside of the camera and to expose the film to the light. Once you've shot your 24 pictures on your roll of film, you roll it back up into the spool, and then you take it out, and you do have to take it to some sort of camera store or a film company that will develop it for you. So the big problem with film cameras is that when you take your pictures, you have to wait a very long amount of time before you can actually see what the image looks like. But in the late 1940s, they invented something called an instant camera. These cameras were able to take a picture, and then in just a few minutes, you'd actually be able to have that picture in your hands. These cameras were popularized in the 60s and 70s, and now in the 2020s, they have started to remake them. Cameras like the Fujifilm Instax Mini, as well as Polaroid, has now started creating instant cameras once again. So these cameras have a film cartridge that goes into the camera, close it up, and then it's ready to shoot, and you can get some instant pictures. You would simply take your photo, and then the image would slowly come out of the side of the camera. This brings us next to digital cameras. The biggest leap in technology in the photography world since its invention was the invention of the digital camera. Now, the big difference between the digital camera and the previous cameras was digital cameras don't use film. Instead, if I take the lens off here, it still has that same mirror in there that bounces the light off into the eyepiece, but instead of the light being exposed to a piece of film, instead it is exposed to an electronic sensor, which then processes that information and provides it to you in real time. So the amazing thing about digital cameras is that for the first time, you were able to take a picture and then view that picture on a screen instantly.
So now that we've talked about the history of photography and how cameras work, let's talk about some techniques that you can use to enhance the artistry of your photos. So the first technique that we are going to talk about is something called the rule of thirds. How the rule of thirds works is typically a more professional photographer will take their subject of their photo and put them off-center. It makes it a little bit more visually appealing, and it takes advantage of the space in the photo just a little bit better. I've taken a few photos that I've taken in the past year, and I'm going to put a grid over top of them so you can sort of see how the subjects are lined up with the thirds of that grid. This is something that just brings another level of professionalism to your photos. While you're at home, I would encourage you to find a tablet or a phone or a digital camera or an iPod, something that can take a picture. Try using the rule of thirds by taking some pictures around your house. Feel free to send them to me. I can give you any sort of feedback you need.